Welcome, folks. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so happy you're here as we dig into our very first Clever Champion Teacher Coffee Chat. Lots and lots of folks here. Welcome. So as we dig in, just a little bit of housekeeping. I want to mention that you can ask us anything. We are sharing a form in the chat, and this was also shared out in the registration email when you signed up for the webinar. So we do have a form for any Q&A, and we will be sharing this out post-webinar. So please use the form for any questions, but feel free to use the chat to say hello or to celebrate our awesome teachers who are with us today. Finally, feel free to stay connected with us. You can join in the conversation by following us on Twitter and using the hashtag #ReadyWithClever. And finally, always a great question, is this session being recorded? The answer is yes. So we record our webinars and we will provide it for you via email afterwards, so you can watch it at your leisure. So let's dig into the agenda. So today we're going to do a quick run through of Clever if you're not already familiar with it. We'll run through our digital classroom demo, which is Teacher Pages. You will hear from two of our Clever champions. We have an elementary teacher and a high school teacher here today talking about how they use Teacher Pages. And we will also support you in your next steps using Teacher Pages with your students. And finally, we will end with some great Q&A. So that's what we're digging into. Of course, I would love to introduce myself. My name is Blair, and I manage customer education here at Clever. So anything that teaches our users, such as teachers and administrators, how to use Clever, that's what my team does. And I am a former middle and first through fourth grade technology teacher. And that's one of the reasons why I am so passionate about Clever. So I want you to picture it, as I'm sure a lot of you can. When I was a teacher, I had 29 first grade students trying to get logged in at once. Their username was their last name, and then a period, and then their first name. Their password was their birthday. And as you can imagine, most of my kiddos really struggled with typing all of that in just to get logged into their devices. So needless to say, this was frustrating for everyone involved. And on a particularly stressful day, one of my first graders who had tried logging in 5 times in a row put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Calm down, I'm only 6." And I thought that was really great advice and really reminds me of why Clever is such a great tool for teachers and for students, because it simplifies that process for everyone involved. Speaking of which, you might be wondering what Clever is if you're not already using it, or if you're a little bit newer to Clever. So we're going to do a really quick explanation of what Clever is. The resources we share out in post-webinar also do a much more thorough job of this. So this is just a little taste. So Clever creates accounts and provides single sign-on to keep logins safe. So instead of having, a login and password for every single program that you use with your students, you have one account, which is your Clever account, and so do students. So we take information from your Student Information System, or SIS. So an example of that would be like PowerSchool or Infinite Campus or Skyward. And we pull that into Clever and we create all of the accounts for any applications that are connected to Clever. So voila, you and your students have one username and password to access any resource connected to Clever. So students just go to Clever, click on the application that they need, and they're signed in, and that's it. So in addition to keeping your students' data safe and making it easier to sign in, we also have some additional features, and that's what we're talking about in this coffee chat today. So we have a tool called Teacher Pages, which allow you to build a digital classroom to customize this classroom so that you have one spot for your students, so that it's less confusing for students to find the tools that they need. You can share a variety of resources from PDFs, applications, and links, and you can even hide resources until you're ready for students to use them. So enough of me talking. I'd actually love to do a quick demo and show you what this looks like in practice. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to grab just a sip of water real quick. So you'll see that I am signed in to my Clever account. And this is what I see as a teacher. So if you're interested in creating a teacher page to give students one home base to go to, you'll click the green add button at the bottom of the screen and click page. And ta-da, you now have a teacher page. It looks a little sad, so we're going to do a little bit of work to customize it and make sure that it looks friendly and connects to my identity as a teacher. So you can customize all elements of your teacher page. So I'm going to start by renaming my teacher page. So right now it's just named after the account of the teacher. So I'm logged in as a teacher named Ricky Emard. That's a little boring, so I'm going to rename it Mr. Emard's Science Class. And I'm a 90s kid, so I'm going to update the logo for my teacher page by uploading an icon that I found online. So I don't know if we have any folks who ever watched Bill Nye the Science Guy, but I found this really cool animated GIF online that I'm going to use for my icon so students can see that when they go into Clever. And I love the color green, so I'm going to customize my header. Also, Jeremy, yes. So you'll see now I have this neat little customized animated GIF. And the last thing I'm going to do, you can add emojis to your teacher pages, and I love emojis. So I pulled up just a little test tube emoji since it's for a science class. And now when students come to this page, they'll see this neat little customized setup up at the top. Now, of course, that's nice and fun, but you can add resources for your students to use, which is really the bread and butter of a teacher page. So for starters, let's say I want to share out a unit that we're about to start on the Earth's structure. So to add a resource, I'll click the add and share button at the bottom and then click category. And I'm going to name this Unit 7, Earth's structure. Let's see if I can spell that right. So now I can add any resource I'd like here, be that a link to a Google Classroom assignment, a YouTube video, an application, or even a PDF of a reading that we've been doing. So a quick example would be clicking add and share, and then application. And I use Kahoot with my students all the time. So I'm going to add Kahoot to my teacher page. And I'm going to drag and drop it to Unit 7 because that's when we're going to be using it. And now it's easily organized and accessible to my students. You can also add, like I mentioned, PDFs and links. So if we have a reading that we're going to be doing, I'll click the same add and share button and then click PDF, upload file. And I found this neat reading on the Earth's structure. And I'm just going to name that Monday's reading. I'm going to add a little book icon, but of course you can upload your own icons if you want to get creative. And I'm going to click add PDF. So now I have a nice organized location for my resources. Now, I bet y'all don't want to sit and watch me build a teacher page for the next 10 minutes. So I actually finished a teacher page a little earlier today and wanted to show you what the finished product can look like. So you'll see I added a section for students of the week, and I have a link to a Google form that students can fill out to nominate a student of the week. I linked to the students of the week for the past 2 weeks. That just links to a Google Doc that talks about why they were nominated. I added the resources for the Unit 7 Earth structure. And I added a YouTube video to review Unit 6 and a couple of links for homework support. So I added the Khan Academy app and I added a link to a Google form where they can request homework help. Two more things I want to mention before we bring it to our MVPs who are with us today, which would be our teacher champions. You might notice that this Unit 7 is grayed out. And it's grayed out because we're not on Unit 7 yet. So I wanted to prepare it and get it ready for my class, but we're not there yet, so I don't want students to see it. So you can hide any category that's not ready for students by simply hitting the hide button, and that will hide it from students. So after Unit 6 is done and we've done our review, I can hit hide and then keep it if I ever need it in the future. So that's a really handy tool that's new this year. The last thing I'm going to mention is we have another new feature this year, which allows you to share your teacher page with other teachers at your school. So to share your teacher page with students or with teachers at your school, you'll click the Share My Teacher Page button on the left. And from there, you can share it with your students. So right now you'll see that it's only visible to me, but I can share it with all of my classes or just one individual class. And I can share it with any teacher who has a Clever account at my school. So if I want to share it with Brianna, because she asked what I'm doing for my my Unit 7 science class, or what I'm doing in my science class for Unit 7, I can share it with her and she'll be able to see it in her Clever account. So that is a quick overview. Like I mentioned just a few moments ago, we will be sharing a lot more resources about teacher pages. So if that was a little fast, you can always rewatch the recording, or you can access the resources we're going to mention in just a moment. But that was a quick run through. Now we are going to get the folks who are our MVPs, our Clever champions, to talk about how they use teacher pages in their classroom. So the example I just gave you was just an example. I'm not currently a teacher, but we have two teachers here who are going to talk about how they use teacher pages. So our first teacher is Anna, who is a first grade teacher in Texas. And I would love to open the floor up to her. So Anna, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, Blair. Hi, everybody. My name is Anna Faust. I work for Dallas ISD, and I'm a first grade bilingual teacher. I've been a teacher for 15 years, all in Dallas ISD, and the last 9 years I've taught first grade.
Beautiful. And I hope you don't mind if I mention, you're also a Dallas Teacher of the Year, which I recently found out, which is super cool. So we have a Teacher of the Year present, which is really exciting. Beautiful.
You.
Of course. And can you tell us a little bit about your school and your students?
Yes, like I mentioned, my school is in Dallas ISD. We are a big school. We have around 6 sections per grade level. Our student population is mostly free or reduced lunch, and we have around 750 students. And in first grade alone, we have around 120 students.
Wow. And how long have you used Clever for?
Say that again?
Sorry, how long have you used Clever for?
So Clever, for like 6 years I used it, and before the pandemic, it was mainly like the district page that my district provided for us. And then like really dig my hands into whenever we started with the pandemic and the virtual learning. And that's when I really, I was like, I had to get used to all these new technologies, and that's when I created my teacher page.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't think you're alone there at all. Yeah, I think there's a lot of teachers who have had a similar experience. Beautiful.
It was pretty much sink or swim.
Yep. Yeah, that's super understandable. Is it cool if we take a look at your teacher page?
Go ahead.
Awesome. So could you walk us through why you use teacher pages and how you like to customize them?
Sure. The main thing, just like you mentioned, was the easy access for my students. Like I said, I'm first grade, so sometimes at the beginning of the year, I have students that are non-readers, non-writers, and I'm also a bilingual teacher. So I have some students that are English learners. So my teacher page, I started using and I loved it because of the ease of access. For first grade, we use the QR code. We don't actually log in with Google. So the QR
Nice.
code made a whole difference as well. And I customized it first with my Bitmoji, so my students can recognize it. That is my
I
page.
love that. I love that.
Now here in the screenshot, you can see like the main apps or resources that I have created that we use kind of on a daily basis. The reading, which is the lectura, and some of them or most of them, those are slide decks that I have made, and then I uploaded the link for my students to use. You also see for the writing, I have some Padlets in there, some slide decks for reference, a digital word wall for my students. And also
Nice.
you don't see it in there, but I also have for math and virtual libraries.
That's so cool. I love the concept of a virtual word wall. That's really cool. And it looks like here, if I'm looking at this, it looks like you have a mix of some applications and then also a good number of links. Is that right?
That is absolutely right. Yes. Yes, some of the apps, of course, iStation, HMH, which is our curriculum, Think Central is our math curriculum, Khan Academy, I found it because of Clever. And then the other resources are the ones that I created, mainly like for fluency, for reading, or ease of access.
Nice. And could you tell us a little bit about what is in that word wall, that virtual word wall?
So for the virtual word wall, we add words that we find out, like vocabulary words, like words that we find out and we discuss through the week. And we also add our high frequency words.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing your teacher page.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah. So something else that's really awesome is that you're also a Clever champion, which means you've completed levels 1 through 4 of our Clever Academy for Teachers courses. And I was wondering if you could share a little with us about what your experience has been like being a Clever champion.
Of course. Well, like I said, whenever we were virtual and I had a lot of time at home, I decided that I was going to be, I feel like I've always been kind of good with technology, but I really wanted, to apply it more for my kiddos. So I found out about the Clever Academy. And first I said that I was just going to look and see what it's about. Because, also we didn't want to be overwhelmed with all the other things that we had to do virtually. But
For
I
sure.
love it because it was so easy. It was very informative. And it got me hooked. Like after I finished the first, when I finished the first chapter and I got the first batch, I even, brag about it with like my family and coworkers. And
I
then
love
I just
that.
kept doing it and I finished the academy.
That's awesome. And can you tell us a little bit about the work that your district decided to showcase that we can see here on the slide?
Sure. So this one that you're looking at it right here is a Padlet. Now, Padlet, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have really introduced it to my students if it wasn't that easy to access for them on Clever. So I added my Padlet on Clever. My students loved it because, they had to either choose to draw a picture, upload a picture, write something, and then, like comment and like the other students' responses, their friends' responses. So I added the Padlet, and I do read a chapter a day for this particular book for my students every day.
I love that.
And we use Padlet for like a quick written response. So for this one in particular was just predictions. Now, this was last year because it was when it was featured for my district, digital resources. So I kind of don't remember the question, but the Padlet was there in Clever. I added the question and then my students responded it. And then our district asked us to showcase like how we were using the virtual resources in our classrooms. And I felt so proud about this one because my students really loved it. And
Nice.
I submitted it and it was chosen to be featured in the digital website.
That's awesome. And I love the plug that you mentioned about how easy it is to add resources like this to a teacher page. So especially for younger kids, it can be so hard navigating. When I taught first grade, that was always the challenge, was like how to get to a website. So I really appreciate you sharing that. We're so grateful to hear about the ways you use EdTech and Clever with your students.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So we have another awesome teacher with us today. We have Cecilia, who's a high school teacher in Louisiana. Also, I love every time I see this photo of her, I love the jacket. It's just like so clutch. So welcome, Cecilia. Thank you so much for joining us today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm Cecilia Izernak. I teach in Louisiana. I have been teaching for 10 years and I've moved districts in the past 2 years. So I've had the fortune of teaching at multiple schools at multiple levels.
Nice. And could you tell us a little bit about your current school and your students?
I currently teach at Logansport High School, which is a K through 12. I'm a lead teacher, so I focus on the secondary half of that. I currently have 74 students that I'm servicing. It is a very rural school. It is a Title I, all free and reduced lunch, and the socioeconomic status is pretty low of most of the children.
Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that. And how long have you used Clever for?
I've used Clever for 3 years. It was accessible to me for many years prior to that. We just didn't have the proper training. And when I moved districts, I needed something that really gave me an edge and helped me feel like I was pushing my kids a little bit because I went to a district that is big on rigor. And this was what I found, and I've been invested since.
That's awesome. That training piece is so real. I feel like when I was a teacher, there were lots of resources potentially or things that I could do, but if you don't have training, it's really hard to use them. So I feel that in my heart. Yeah. Could you tell us a little bit about why you use teacher pages with your high school students?
Okay, so I am a very active teacher, so I jump around a lot. I don't like it to be bored. I want my kids to always feel like they're engaged and they're moving and they're doing something different. It's fun. So I was
Mhm.
struggling trying to keep them like, hey, this website, and now we're going to jump to this website. And the kids were like, I don't know the logins. And Clever was just the best thing that ever came to me because I could put a link or I could put a page and they could just go to one site and link over. So I have all of my, which I see most of them are pulled up, my American government links. Those are just links that I use for American government. Even the OpenStax is something that's a textbook. It's a free online resource. And students sometimes they don't have internet at home. And this one you can download. So it was something that I was like,
Oh,
hey,
cool.
I need to have something accessible for everyone I teach. And the best benefit is that the district's resources are automatically linked in. There's no complications. When new kids come to me, I don't have to worry about integrating them because Clever does all of that work for me. They've also introduced me to a few apps that I've fell in love with. So for an ed tech teacher, it is vital. And I don't ever want to imagine my life without Clever.
Oh, thank you so much. We love to hear that. And how has it been being a Clever champion?
It's been great. I've learned so much. Like you talked about, the vital piece of this program is training. And I feel like a lot of districts don't give that training up front. And if they did, it would be a different scenario for some districts. And when I switched, I became an ed tech leader. I moved up real quick in my school because I was like, hey, we got to do some fun stuff. These kids live in technology, they exist in technology, and you want to hand them paper, pencil, and a book. They don't know what to do with that. So we changed our perspective this past year, and our push has been what can we do to become better ourselves, be that first learner, be that lead learner. And Clever fell into some of our laps on the leadership team because you all developed a program that we could go through the training and really understand the program and use it to the best of our abilities. And so I became a Clever champion recently this year and an ed tech leader on my campus. I started presenting, and this forum it's a great opportunity because it grows your capacity. And so I think that becoming that champion's opened a door to help me grow as a teacher and as an ed tech leader, and hopefully move up continually helping other teachers.
I love that. And what is this picture here? It looks like you're presenting.
This is my the conference DKG Delta Kappa Gamma Psi. So I am part of a sorority of educators, and I had the
Nice.
honor of presenting to them 2 weekends ago. and we did ed tech and becoming a lead learner. And I actually used Clever as one of my, if you don't have this, talk to your district and make your life easier.
Nice. That's awesome. Thank you so much for walking through all of that. I have one last question about teacher pages for you. So we had a form where attendees could submit their questions, and Ms. Gallagher, who teaches in Pennsylvania, responded to our question last week asking, are the digital classrooms just used for virtual learning, or does it help enhance in-person teaching as well? And I was wondering if you had any advice for her.
Well, first off, that is a great question. I love that question. And I would say that digital learning is for everyone. And I use it in various ways. So I'll just give you a few examples. For example, I have kids that are in a rural school. So I teach an AP class. Sometimes students are placed in that AP class that aren't true AP students. And I can't just leave a student behind. So I use it as a way to scaffold a lot of times. I currently have a student who is 2 units above everyone else and has left me in the dust. But I'm fine with that because his scores will be fabulous, fingers crossed. So, digital learning can be used for in-person, a mix, a hybrid. I have some students that come to school 3 days a week and I don't see them 2 days. They go off of campus to a technical school to do other things. But they can always link back to me if I have those resources available to them. So I tell everyone digital classrooms are the future of education, in my opinion, and we need to go ahead and get that foundation and learn how to integrate in and out of it.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing and for answering Ms. Gallagher's question and for joining us today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank y'all.
Yeah. So if you all want to be like Anna and Cecilia, we would recommend becoming a Clever Champion by completing levels 1 through 4 of Clever Academy. We are debuting new features for Clever Champions, so keep your eyes peeled for an update soon, but we would heavily recommend becoming a champion so that you can be looped in on exciting opportunities moving forward. And we're going to talk about next steps before we dig into our Q&A. So there's 3 things that we recommend for your next steps today. The first is to take a deep dive into teacher pages. If you haven't noticed, there is a lot you can do with them that we just can't get to in a couple of minutes. So we're putting into chat right now our teacher page product spotlight, which is a short little bite-sized course of just about teacher pages. Something else that we recommend doing is sharing your teacher pages out to colleagues at your school. So as I mentioned in the demo, you can now share teacher pages with colleagues, and that is mentioned in the teacher page product spotlight and in the link that's being shared in chat. And the third thing we recommend doing is becoming a Clever Champion. After finishing the courses, you'll get certificates and you'll be invited to opportunities to share your knowledge at events just like this one. For anything inside Clever Academy, it is self-paced and you can start and stop as frequently as you'd like. So you can do it in, 10 or 15-minute chunks whenever you have time. It is completely on demand and available whenever you have time. I also have a shameless and exciting plug for anyone who likes free swag. We are sending a bunch of swag packs with Clever Academy and Clever Swag to folks in a raffle. So by attending this webinar, you're already halfway there. You attended, which is great. The second thing you need to do to be entered into the swag raffle is complete that teacher page course in Clever Academy that we put in chat. So by completing that, you will be automatically entered into the swag raffle. So there's nothing else you need to do aside from attending the webinar and completing the teacher page product spotlight. And you'll be entered and you can wait to hear back from us. Oh, come on. Yay, Marissa. I see you completed Clever Academy level 4. Awesome. So please complete these steps to get entered to the raffle. We want to give out the swag. And we're now going to transition to some Q&A. So we have a few questions that folks submitted prior to the event. And then I will also answer a few more questions that folks have submitted via the form. So just a reminder, please use that form that we have shared out to ask your questions. Please do not use the chat because it's a little hard to follow. So the first question we have is, as a newer teacher, how can I best utilize Clever now that I'm becoming more acclimated? So first of all, like, huge shout out to you for asking that and for seeking out professional development. I would recommend completing our 20-minute quick start guide or any of the courses that we've shared out today. Any of those are available on demand. You can complete them at your own pace, and you get certificates for completing them, which can also be really helpful, as Cecilia mentioned, and as Anna mentioned, to showcase the work that you're doing. So the short answer to this is Clever Academy. Please check it out. It is completely free and on demand. The next question we have is about creating teacher pages for certain students, but not the entire class. So I wanted to mention that at this moment, you can only share a teacher page with either all of your students or one individual class. But I wanted to make a few recommendations for this, and this came from Erica in California. So thank you so much, Erica. So a few options for your question. One would be going into any programs that you've added to your teacher page and assigning specific lessons based on student need. So for example, if you've added iReady or Khan Academy or NoRedInk to your teacher page, you can go into those programs and assign differentiated activities for your students. And you would do that through the program itself. So you would go into iReady or Khan Academy or NoRedInk and assign the content there. Something else to consider is that you can create categories. So Cecilia mentioned this earlier, and Anna mentioned that she uses Khan Academy. So both of those are great examples of ways to differentiate. Let me go ahead and quickly share another way to differentiate, which is creating categories in your teacher page. So if you have a student who is ahead, like Cecilia mentioned, you can always add a category. And you could name this like enrichment or extra practice or study materials. So you can create a category for truly any resource. And within this, you could add a link to a folder that has review content, or you could add Khan Academy and assign content to students who need a little extra practice. So you can differentiate using teacher pages, using categories, or by assigning content. So hopefully that is helpful, Erica. We have a couple more questions. So we had one other person ask before the event, are there ways to view other teacher pages to see what resources they found? Love this question. So as I mentioned a little bit earlier, you can now share teacher pages. So if you have a colleague at your school who you know is using Clever, please feel free to ask them to share their teacher page with you. If they share it with you, you will have view access of their page. So you won't be able to edit it or accidentally delete anything from their page, but you will be able to see what they've added to it. And in our teacher page product spotlight, which I mentioned a moment ago, we also have a bunch of examples of teacher pages that I think are really helpful to take a look at, where you can see different resources. And let me quickly show you what it looks like to access a page that has been shared with you. So I am in my Clever account. So from your Clever account, there is a tab called Shared with Me. So if another teacher has shared a teacher page with you, you can view it by simply clicking the little icon. So I can see Braden Glover, who is a teacher at my school, shared their teacher page with me. And I can see that it looks like maybe they're doing a spooky activity named Booga Booga, but they also link Khan Academy, they link Duolingo, they've also linked a PDF. So any resources that are helpful, I can access. And if you would like to share a teacher page with someone else, you can simply go to the page and click, I'm so sorry, just had a brain fog for a moment, and click sharing permissions. And you can share it with any teacher at your school. So if I want to share it with Elizabeth, I can share my page with her and she can now see my page, but she cannot edit it. So she's not going to accidentally delete anything. Cool. So we have 1 or 2 more questions, and then I will open it up to other questions that came in via the form. And Anne-Marie, thank you so much for your question. We have someone else from California here. How do you add links for curriculum websites that students will be accessing on a regular basis? So I ran through this a little bit earlier, but by clicking that green add and share button, you can easily add links, PDFs, and applications to any link in the world that you would like to share with your students. So be that a link to a YouTube video or a curriculum website, whatever you would like to share with your students, you'll just click that green add and share button on your teacher page. And I saw a few additional questions that came in. So I'm going to answer those live. So we have a question: can Clever be used in a similar fashion as Google Classroom or Canvas? So that's a really good question. I like to say that Clever plays well with others. So you can use Clever with a program such as Google Classroom or Canvas. A great example of that would be linking a Google Classroom assignment on your teacher page. I don't know if y'all ever run into this, but when I was a teacher, my students sometimes would get lost in Google Classroom because there can be a lot going on. So something I loved to do was adding a link to a Google Classroom assignment in my teacher page. So a good example of that would be linked right here. So you'll see under this example teacher page that I built, I have a link to our Google Classroom Earth project. If a student clicks that, it's going to take them to this assignment in Google Classroom. And the way that you would link that is just by clicking the 3 dots in Google Classroom and copying the link, and then adding that to your teacher page by clicking the add and share button. So I like to say that they work well together, and teacher pages make it really easy to get the most important things front and center in front of students. Awesome. So I have a few more questions. Another question is, once you share a teacher page, does it duplicate? And does the new teacher have the ability to edit it? So let me read that one more time. Once you share a teacher page, does it duplicate, and does the new teacher have the ability to edit it? That's an excellent question. So when someone shares a teacher page with you, it gives you view access to that page, so you cannot edit it. So you don't accidentally make any updates to your colleague's teacher page. That being said, you can add a resource from a teacher page that has been shared with you to your teacher page. So I'll briefly show you what that looks like. So I am in my Clever account. If I click the Shared with Me tab, I see that Braden Glover, one of my teachers, one of my colleagues, has shared their teacher page with me. Let's say I want to add I want to add Khan Academy to my teacher page. I'll click the Add button, and I'm going to add it to my social studies class. So this is a teacher page that I've already made. And these are my categories in my teacher page. And I'll add it to this category here and click Add. Now, when I go to that teacher page, you'll see that Khan Academy is added. So you can add resources from a teacher page that has been shared with you, and you can add as many of them as you would like to a teacher page that you have already created. One other great question, is there a way to hide individual apps from students without uninstalling? That's an excellent question. So let's say we are not using Khan Academy at the moment, and I don't want students clicking it and getting confused. I can click the add and share button and make a category, and let's call that not in use. Now, if I drag Khan Academy to that category, I can hide that individual resource. So as you'll see, I click this little eyeball icon, and now students will not be able to see the not in use category, which includes Khan Academy. So this is really helpful for anything that you are not using yet with your students or want to revisit a little bit later in the year. This way, as the person who shared asked, I don't have to uninstall Khan Academy. I can just leave it here until I'm ready to use it again. And we have one more question that I'm going to get to, which is, how do you become a Clever champion? Love that question. So to become a Clever champion, you will go to Clever Academy, and I will briefly show you what that looks like just to make sure it's extra easy. So this is Clever Academy right here. To become a Clever champion, you will complete the certifications course. So it's 4 courses. Each one is about 30 minutes, and you can come back to it as frequently as you would like. So you do not have to do it in 1 or 2 or 3 sittings. You can do it at whatever pace you would like. And once you complete all 4 of these courses, you will earn badges and get certificates that show that you are a Clever champion. So love that question. I think those are all the questions that came in. I just want to make one more plug. All of the questions that came in our form today will be added to our resources section of the coffee chat and will be emailed out so that you can see all the great questions that were asked today, even if we didn't have time to answer them live. And with that, I just want to thank you and remind folks, please complete the teacher page product spotlight to be entered into our swag raffle. It is shared out in the completion email and in the coffee chat course. Thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you spending time with us. And one more shout out to Anna and Cecilia for spending time with us. Really appreciate their time.